Hi. Good evening, everybody. Let's see. First time doing it with this setup, so there we go. A little more centered there. It is the 200 level. Mike Carpenter in the basement studio. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Decided to do this podcast after our family Thanksgiving dinner and dessert and hanging out until almost 7 o'clock. And as things are kind of winding down and everybody's in that turkey uh, turkey binge stupor, I really wanted to talk about the game that we saw today and not necessarily wait until tomorrow. I wanted to talk while it was fresh in my mind. On Thanksgiving Day, in front of a national television audience, unranked Illinois played 19th ranked Arkansas and basically led by double digits the entire way. Against an impressive Arkansas defense that had been pretty good to this point in the year, Illinois put up 90 points. And as I believe Sean Harrington had tweeted out, those 90 points, when you consider the fact that Illinois kind of slowed down their offense in the last 5 minutes of the game, is even more impressive. Harrington went on to say that this is probably a top 20 team, and it's hard for me to disagree, even with what we saw against Alabama, which, of course, was frustrating, and Ole Miss before that. But let's just take a breath here and remember this is Game 7 of a team with 10 new players, a rotation that's still kind of getting figured out, even though it seems like Brad Underwood has a much better handle on it. And this, what we saw today, is pretty damn impressive when you consider all those circumstances, when you consider the opponent, when you consider all the new pieces that Brad Underwood and his staff are working with. And to me, the most impressive thing of all is how the players look as a unit. For something that is relatively brand new, and yeah, they had summer practices and all that. They had the month of October and early November to get ready. But all that said, this looks like a pretty finely tuned machine already. And most impressive, on top of the offense, which you knew this team had skill going in, is a defense that I thought overall was pretty good today. Yeah, there were times where Arkansas got to the rim a little too much. I thought in the first half you saw Arkansas draw a few too many fouls on Illinois because Illinois was just a little bit late getting over on those drives. But as the second half unfolded, and I'm sitting and watching it with my dad, and I say to him, even when Arkansas gets within 11, 10, as close as 9, I think, but that was it. Illinois always responded. But I told him I'm not really upset with the defensive effort because I didn't feel like we were giving up that many gimmies. It certainly didn't feel like Alabama. It felt like, if anything, hey, Arkansas has some good players that are making plays. We just have more good players making better plays and more of them. And the defense, that was impressive, I thought, overall. But the fact that Illinois, every single time they needed to make a shot, and Brad Underwood spoke about this after the game, every time they needed to make a shot, they did. Right on cue. Now, we'll get to the individual performances here in a bit, but we could name check almost half the roster as guys that had a huge impact on this win. But while we'll do that after the sponsors, I think it's more just the overall unit, how this team looks, whatever five you put out there together, and the fact that it looks pretty good already. Yeah, it's late November. Yeah, you're 7 games in. There are only a couple more non-conference opportunities that would be big for your net rankings or for your seedings, and that would be Tennessee in a couple weeks and Missouri, who doesn't look as bad as last year for sure, even though a scary injury to one of their players, Caleb Grill, I think their leading scorer, had a neck injury yesterday, and then Duke in February. But what's kind of fun about this is the next game you play is the Big Ten opener next Friday in Evanston against Northwestern, a Northwestern team that I think you should beat. Wisconsin at home after that, and while they have been tough, I'll take our chances. Right now, the way this team looks, it reminds me of last year when they played Rutgers as a sort of arrival moment where you said, oh, this is what it can look like. This is what maybe it should look like. And most excitingly, this is what it might look like for much of the rest of the year. Now, there will be blips along the way. That's inevitable. This team is going to have moments that make you want to pull your hair out. And as good as Kasparas, excuse me. Gosh darn it. I will get this. Kasparas was today. There were still moments where I wanted to pull my hair out because he was just getting either a little too loose with the ball or a little too creative for his own good. But Kasparas, when it came down to it, was a stone cold killer. MVP of the game, deservedly so, and just continues to look like a first-round NBA draft pick. You understand when you watch him and he goes on these heaters why he's so highly regarded by scouts. So here we are on Thanksgiving evening, and what I want to talk about after the break, before we get to individual performances, is in the spirit of the holiday, the gratitude I feel towards this basketball program for getting things going in such a dramatic reversal of the way things were 8-9 years ago. And we're going to talk about that in just a bit. But before I get too far ahead of myself, got to remind you, the 200 level is brought to you by Hamilton Walkers. Steak, seafood, and spirits. This place is good to eat any time of year, but when the holidays come especially, there's something about being in that cozy environment that they have. It's a classy joint. I like how it's got that old steakhouse feel, kind of a dark main dining room. The front bar area kind of reminds you of like a 1920s speakeasy or something like that, but it's especially cool to go to Hamilton Walkers during the holiday season. Me and some friends are going to go there here in a couple weeks. When you go there, my personal recommendation, get a bone-in steak, medium or medium rare, if you like it a little bit pink. Family-style sides. If I were to recommend, you got to get the steak fries. They're super crispy. That's personally my favorite. And then I usually get a vegetable in there, whether it be the green beans are pretty good. Sometimes if I want a little bit more of a comfort food flavor, I'll go with macaroni and cheese. But as long as I got my Hamilton Walkers old-fashioned, I'm good to go. Hamilton Walkers, downtown Champaign, steak, seafood, and spirits. Also, got to thank Dogtown Heating, Air, and Plumbing, your home's best friend. Give them a call at 217-841-4728. We had our furnace checked 2-3 weeks ago now. Thank God we did, considering tomorrow the high temperature is 28, wind gust around 25, wind chills around 10. Miserable, but not at our house. Why? Because Dogtown Heating, Air came out, checked our furnace as they've done the last 3 years, and it is ready to go for the cold weather ahead. So give them a call today at 217-841-4728. and get your furnace check scheduled today with Dogtown Heating, Air, and Plumbing. Also got to thank State Farm agent Brian Hansen online at brianismyguy.com. Life, auto, home, business renters, you name it. Brian is my guy, and he could be your guy at brianismyguy.com. Sure, he was watching the game wherever he was celebrating Thanksgiving today. Big Illini fan, Brian. And we've been working with him now, my wife and I, for about 4 years. So can personally recommend him. As far as insurance goes, he knows his stuff, but the customer service is what sets them apart. Brian Hansen, brianismyguy.com. And finally, Owen Builders LLC, online at owenbuildersllc.com. Check out a gallery of their work online and get a free quote while you're there. They work year-round. Yes, cold temperatures are coming, but that does not stop Luke and his staff from working on any home project that you might be interested in. owenbuildersllc.com. Got to thank Champagne Showers Podcast Network and you, the listener, and a few viewers on this Thanksgiving evening. Yeah, we don't have the competition of Illini Inquirer tonight. I know that people are hanging out with their families. This was just a little reprieve in our daily schedule where everyone's kind of going back to their rooms, getting their comfies on. We're going to settle in and watch the National Dog Show, a Thanksgiving tradition of ours. Yes, some people are going to tune into the Packers and Dolphins. I'm a little bit footballed out after the garbage I saw with the Bears yet again today, but this is not a Bears podcast. Illinois football, that is coming up on Saturday. Don't really plan on talking too much about them today. Perhaps Saturday, a post-game podcast. I'm going to watch that game with a friend. Early kickoff, 11 a.m. Was thinking about going maybe a month or two ago, and then I know tickets would be cheap, but it's just too damn cold. I can't do it. I saw the Michigan State game. By the end of it, I had to borrow my wife's gloves because I was just starting, and I was nervous about the game too. This is still when it was like 21-16, or 24-16, and it wasn't put away yet. So I think that maybe my nervous energy made me colder. But yeah, I'm not doing that. Oh, real quick, also before I forget, the 200 level basketball book. When we're talking about Christmas gifts and things like that, Black Friday specials. Go on Amazon.com if you are not in the Champaign-Urbana area, or if you are, go to either Game Day Spirit location or Jane Addams Bookstore in downtown Champaign. And it would be a great stocking stuffer for any Illini basketball fan in your life. And after a win like today, aren't we all kind of in the Illini basketball mood? Now, let's talk about the macro picture here. And, sorry, let me wet my whistle. The macro picture is this, and I'm sitting with my dad watching this game, someone I've been watching these games with since I was born, essentially, and certainly since I remember at the age of 3, 4, 5, starting to go to games at the Assembly Hall, and how Illini basketball from November through March was always the big thing in our family. It was the conversation of family dinners and all of that. And that didn't go away during the later Weber and the Gross years. It didn't go away like that. I mean, it was still a top-of-mind conversation that we would have, but it wasn't fun, which I know that's a very general statement, but you and I both know that that was a really tough decade. So to me, beating Arkansas on Thanksgiving, on CBS, in a matchup where they had on their Twitter profile, Brad Underwood, John Calipari next to each other, getting the same top billing, two elite head coaches going head-to-head. And that struck me this morning when I saw that image again and thought, well, look at this. We're talking Coach Cal, who has a national title and as maligned as he was at the end of his Kentucky run, the guy's a Hall of Famer. If he's not already, he will be. And here's our coach, who, when he was hired back in 2017, the hope was just get us back to tournaments. And everything after that was gravy. We just were not making tournaments then. He has so far surpassed that. And yeah, we're waiting for a Final Four. We're waiting for that elusive national title, which is a big albatross for that guy to wear. He's wearing the albatross of an entire program's futile attempts to win a national title. But when you just look at what he personally has done, and it would not be, I think, hyperbolic to say resurrect the Illini basketball brand, because it was a brand, and now it is a brand again. And finding yourself in this position where when the Lions and Bears game ends, the entire nation's watching that game. And I know that the majority of them still turn to that garbage Giants-Cowboys game, which is as predictably bad as you could have imagined. But a lot of eyes would have stayed on Illinois-Arkansas. And I don't know how we could ever get numbers about what the Nielsen ratings are or anything like that. But on a lazy Thanksgiving holiday, when people are just kind of sitting around the couch and say, you know what, I don't want to watch Drew Lock versus Cooper Rush. I don't want to do that. They didn't change the channel. And they saw Illinois jump out to a 15-point lead and essentially just hold that lead. Yeah, it got to 11. It got to 9 a couple times. It was a double-digit lead for, 37 of those 40 minutes. There was a win probability chart that was posted on ESPN. And about a minute or two into the game, when we took the early 8-0 lead, and then I think up as much as 11-0 after that, then 11-2. But the win probability chart on ESPN just shot right up to Illinois, 80% or something, a few minutes into the game. And it essentially stayed there. It was never threatened. Never probably got below 60% Illinois chance to win. And then you look at the actual scoring chart, and it's just an upward trajectory. Yeah, Arkansas was kind of playing you tit for tat once you took that 15-point lead, and kudos to them. They are a talented team that clearly will make the tournament and will be hovering around top 25 all year. Are they a Final Four contender? Probably not. But this early in the year, when you have a roster with all these new pieces, and you have this marquee opportunity on CBS for Illinois to come out and just kick ass to the tune of, was it 13 or 15 point? 13, 90-77. That's just wholly impressive. Any way you slice it. And to me, it is as much as it comments on this particular team and what they can do as the season progresses. It really has much more to do with how Brad Underwood has made this program really a top 15 for sure, if not top 10 program in the country. Now, it's probably somewhere in the middle. If you were to say Illinois top 12, I'd say yeah. If you said top 10, I'm not sure about that. And you might be saying, well, Carp, what's the delineation here? The lack of a Final Four run keeps you away from that great conversation. Or not great, but elite, right? Because there have been 10 really good programs, I'm sure, since Brad Underwood's been coach, that have went to the Final Fours. And you'd even throw a Baylor probably in there before Illinois. Even if they aren't as good as Illinois might be this year when all's said and done, they've done it. They've been there. Well, it is a big hurdle to clear. But the fact remains, to even be in the conversation for CBS programming and say, you know what, we want that team and that team, after our Lions Thanksgiving Day game speaks volumes. So I think what made this such a fun viewing experience was the mix of the game was never really in doubt. You had big-time players continue to make big shots throughout. And you knew all the while a national audience was watching your team and your cool coach, because Brad Underwood is cool. The dude has swagger, and he's earned a lot of that swagger. And just ho-hum, as I tweeted out, ho-hum, double-digit win in front of a national audience on CBS on Thanksgiving Day. And after that, I said grateful. #Illini, because I am grateful for that. And, of course, I'm grateful for other things more than Illini basketball. But I would be lying if I didn't say that it is a major part of my identity. And yours as well if you're spending time listening to a podcast like this. It means something. And for a good decade, the thing that meant so much to us was not returning the favor. It was actually making our winters a little bit colder and a little bit darker and a little bit drearier. But even on this very cold Thanksgiving, historically cold, WCIA put it up, it's one of the 10 coldest Thanksgivings in the last 50, 60 years. Even though it's not that bad today. And I'm feeling great because I got a pretty awesome basketball program to root for. So I didn't want to bury the lead here, which I think is a little bit more macro than micro. But at the same time, when you play as well as you did, I understand why people would be excited for this team on this night and what that means going forward. So let's talk about that. Good evening to those in the chat thread. Anything that you want to throw out there? Hey, Bobo. Hey, Eric. Hey, banjo tuba guy. You can play the banjo and the tuba. Banjo is not an easy instrument to play. But good evening to all of you. And if you have anything that you want to throw in there, please do. And I'll make sure to get to it. All right, let's talk about this game. Tomislav Ivisic. Am I putting the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable? Tommy for short. Was awesome. And he was really the key guy to help you build that lead, I felt like early, along with Kylan Boswell, who, if you're talking about the two best players in the first half for Illinois, it was Kylan Boswell and Tomislav Ivisic. Tomislav finishes with, I want to make sure I get this right, he did foul out, 21 points on 7 of 14 shooting, 6 of 9 from 3. A 7'1" guy hitting 6 threes, shooting 66% no less in a game against his older brother, who, while good, finished with 13 points to his younger brother's 21. They can both shoot the three. They're both talented players. You could see it. They didn't look quite as similar as I thought they might, but cool little storyline, and Tomislav got the best of him. But Kylan Boswell, I think since definitely the second half of the Alabama game, but whatever the home game was before that, I started to see what felt like the light turn on for him and him just feeling more comfortable with his role on this team. Well, tonight was his coming out party. 18 points on 6 of 10 shooting, taking it to the rim. He did hit 1 3, 1 for 4. He's still struggling from out there. 5 of 7 from the line, 5 boards, 6 assists. Very impressive. In the second half, though, the story, Kasparas Jakucionis, and the domination that he had, scoring 12 straight points to help you put that game on ice. The offense was in a weird place at that moment where Will Riley, who only finished with 5, was not scoring at the clip that you're used to. Tomislav had some foul trouble. Some Merez was in there, and God, I love Merez Johnson. I'm going to talk about him in a bit. Kylan was still attacking the rim, so you felt like, well, he can maybe draw some fouls. But other than that, it felt like, okay, well, where are we going to get our scoring from? By the way, can I throw a Benham Rickhouse? I was telling my dad this. It's like every night he has the quietest 11 points ever. 9 points. I thought he only had 2 threes. He had 3 threes, including a big one late. But Kylan Boswell, to me, is really the story of this game because if he is good, as he was tonight, this team is that much better. Not necessarily in-depth analysis, but just look at that starting 5 if you can count on Kylan Boswell to be good. Maybe not to the tune of 18 points a night, but also defensively. They put him on Boogie Fland. And 5-star kid, right? I think there were slight rumors maybe in the offseason, maybe we could get him because he was originally, I think, committed to Kentucky. But he finishes with 8 points, fine, on 2 of 12 shooting. He had some foul trouble too, which upset his rhythm. But I think the biggest thing there was the fact that Kylan was up in that guy's grill, playing great defense all night. So Kylan seems to have a role on this team. First couple games, it was, well, he can play some defense. Okay, fine, but it'd be nice if he could score too. You're starting to see that intensity that he plays with on defense is trickling over to his offense. And not only that, but he looked really steady playing point tonight. Really steady. In a game where Kasparas, despite the great second half, still turned the ball over 5 times. And I thought was a little too loose with the ball. I mean, there were moments where even Trevor mentioned the word Curbelo, which, sends a chill down your spine because you love the dude's raw talent. Because Kasparas is much better than Andre Curbelo, clearly. But when he did clean it up, that was when it really clicked. If you would have called who's the MVP of this game with 10 minutes to go, it was not Kasparas. It was not. It was either Kylan or it was Tomislav. So just kudos to Kylan for being steady in a game that you needed some steadiness for the first 30 minutes or so. Jake Davis got some tick. You could do worse than Jake. He did make a 3. Some hustle plays. He got an assist. Dre got a 3. And it just seemed, I would say a big 3, but it seemed like every 3 for Illinois was a big 3 in the second half because it usually happened when you would see Arkansas get it within 11 points. 11, maybe sometimes even 10. Then you hit a timely 3 to go back up 13, 14, or 15 points, and then just stem the tide. No big deal. So kudos to Dre. Good to see him get back on the box score after he's kind of had a quiet few games, it's felt like. Merez Johnson, though. Man, do I love Merez. Yeah, he's not the greatest free throw shooter, so whenever he does get fouled, I'm a little bit, ugh. But while he did miss his first 2 free throws, he made his second 2 free throws. The dude is a beast. He's active. He had a couple of fouls that just call them rookie mistakes, just not getting over quick enough defensively. But there is clearly a lot of talent there. Just a fun kid to watch. And in an era where a lot of the guys that you bring to campus are going to be transfers, 1-2 year type of things, it does feel with Merez that there is a 3-4 year plan for him. He's not going to go pro early because he's not tall enough. Without a jump shot, he is not some sort of early exit guy. So you're looking, if you play your cards right as a program, and I see no reason why Brad Underwood and this program wouldn't want to keep Merez around. He's legit. That you might have the benefit of seeing him for maybe all 4 years. That's my hope, at least. And I think it's more possible than you often get in situations like this. I want to make sure I'm not missing anybody in the lineup. Will Riley, only 5 points, but the 3 that went in looked great. He only went 1 for 5 from 3, though. And he did have a nice little shot from maybe 6-7 feet out. He's so smooth. I thought that overall his defense still looked pretty good for being a freshman. And that really goes to the entire Illinois team defense, which I thought was really strong tonight. When you look at the box score, yes, Arkansas finished with 48% shooting, 3-point field goal percentage, only 29 for them. But I felt like there were, in the second half, some adjustments made. You contested shots pretty well. Arkansas just made some tough shots, and that was also the half where the other Ivisic made some threes to keep that game honest. So I thought that the defense actually looked good. And Ken Pom actually reflects that. Illinois jumped all the way up to 15th overall. And the defense is 22nd best in the country. The offense is 18th best in the country, according to Ken Pom. I did not have that on my bingo card, as Joey Wagner would often say, that Illinois would have potentially a top 25 defense. If that were to hold, I assume the offense will only get better. And even against an Arkansas team who against, let's see, according to Ken Pom, I want to make sure I got this right, 17th best defense in the country, you drop 90. Yeah, the 3 points help, but you know what? This team will have nights where they make a lot of three-pointers. So I have no problem with them shooting as many as they did, which in this case was 15 for 31. 31 three-point attempts. I've seen more. And if you're going to make 15 of them, have at it. They could have won 15 for 40, and I'd be happy. Illinois, just some box score things here. 53% from the field to Arkansas's 48. So really, right there, that tells you the difference in the margin. 3 points. Let's see. They attempted just one less field goal overall than Arkansas. Free throws, Illinois made 15 of 22 for 68%. A few of those kind of uncharacteristic misses. You take out the 2 from Merez, you're still over 70%, but still. Arkansas, 59%. Most of those shot from Thiero. I didn't have the announcers on, but he was the guy that ended up with 26 for Arkansas. Tough kid. Turnovers, 11 for both teams. You can live with 11. That's fine. Points off turnovers, 9 for Illinois, 11 for Arkansas. It's pretty even. Rebounds, 34 for Illinois, 31 for Arkansas. And trying to think defensive rebounds. You cleaned up that fairly well, though. Arkansas still finished with 10 offensive to your 6 offensive rebounds. Second chance points, Arkansas 18-9. Bench points, even at 19. Points in the paint, Arkansas 42, Illinois 28. But man, the three-pointer, isn't that it? I mean, that's college basketball. And Illinois would like to get more points in the paint. I will say that was not their best tonight, but they didn't need it tonight. And I think if the three's not been falling, you would have seen more of an emphasis from Kylan and KJ to get down there. More of maybe Tomislav, if he wasn't making 6 of 9, setting up on the block and working from there. Blocks, Illinois 4, Arkansas 2. We're not bad at blocks. I'm assuming that Merez had 1 or 2 because he just does that. Steals, 7 for both teams, and assist, 16 for Illinois on how many made field goals? 30. So over half of your shots were assisted. Illinois led for 38 minutes and 53 seconds. So that means the first shot was made a minute 7 into the game, and you never relinquished the lead. Listen, Arkansas is probably not a Final Four team. They're probably a lose in the second round kind of team. But they are a tournament team, and they have talent. And say what you want about Coach Cal, he's a good coach. He just is. The track record, I don't care how many 5 stars he has, the guy wins at a very high clip. That was an impressive win, any way you slice it. And Arkansas, now you just root for him. Hey, go win a bunch of games, help our net ranking, and I'm A-okay with that. A couple things here in the chat thread from Banjo Tuba Guy. I think Illini have the better Ivisic twin. Tommy was so good today. He is so fluid on the court, Banjo, if I can call you Banjo. So fluid, and he has a quick release on the three. There are times where he would get the ball, and he just looks at his defender who's 5 feet away, and then he's just like, okay, fine. And then he just launches it. It's like it can be at his hip and up and out of his hands within a half second. Very quick release, very smooth stroke. Looks great. Jason, Carp, who was your player of the game? All right, Kasparas was phenomenal down the stretch, but I don't think his first 30 minutes were all that great. Excuse me, sorry. That's disgusting. I'll go with Ivisic. I think that he was your player of the game. But it's really, can I give out 3 co-MVPs? I mean, Kylan, Tomislav, Kasparas all won you that game today. And the supporting cast did what they had to do. They didn't really get in your way. They didn't hurt you. So your 3, I don't want to say best players because Will Riley's Will Riley. But boy, if all of a sudden Kylan Boswell can become the best version of Kylan Boswell, well, you can start factoring him in with that. How do I kind of sort this team's roster? Givens and maybes. And in the first few games, it felt like Kylan was more of a maybe, depending on what version of him you're going to get any given night. Maybe it'll be good Kylan, maybe it'll be bad. I felt like the givens were Will Riley, Tomislav, Kasparas. I don't know. You had Kylan in that mix. And again, it doesn't need to be to the tune of 18 points. So I'm going as a cop-out. 3 MVPs, Kylan, Tomislav, Kasparas. But if I had to choose, proverbial gun to the head, I would take Tomislav. All right, this is from Jailbreak. This team could be special. Hard to believe he can put it together so quick. Referring to Underwood here, Jailbreak. I don't have much criticism for Underwood. It's a new world with the portal and all. And NIL, excuse me. I don't have much criticism for Underwood right now. And if you just look on the sideline, this looks like a guy that's really comfortable with the way things are going. You don't want to get too comfortable, but I was even texting with Trevor and Isaac about this. We mentioned the Ty Rodgers thing, and yeah, Trey White was a non-factor in tonight's game. I haven't even mentioned Trey White yet because he didn't really do anything. He finished with 2 boards, 1 shot attempt, 2 fouls. He didn't really play at all in the second half. But here's Brad Underwood, and you can call this cold and you can call it ruthless. He's like, Ty can't shoot. So they have a tough conversation before the year, I'm guessing, and he says, this is what Trey's role in this team is. Right now, this is what your role would be. Do you want to accept that role, or do you want a redshirt? I mean, maybe Ty was the one that brought it to him. I don't know. They're going to come out, if they were asked about it, they will paint whatever picture they want to. But what strikes me is that Underwood said, no, that's not good enough. So I'm going to go get a guy that's basically like Ty Rodgers with a jump shot. In some games, he'll get us double digits, some he won't. But the offense will be what it is if he's out there. Meanwhile, Ty Rodgers, it would not be able to be the same offense. And I love Ty, so I don't want that to sound like a slight against him. And then it also hit me yesterday, and this is what I mentioned to Trevor and Isaac, and we were talking about it. Luke Goody goes to Indiana, an absolute dumpster fire right now. Big surprise, I know, with Mike Woodson as their coach. Luke Goody has this sort of viral video that goes around on Twitter yesterday of him trying to get in his players' faces, his teammates' faces at Indiana. Like, get your head out of your butt. We got to play. Because the culture here is so different than Indiana. Indiana's a mess. They didn't play hard yesterday. I don't know what the score is right now, and if someone's in the chat thread and can tell me, like, are they playing right now because they were in the third place or fifth? I don't even know, but they got Gonzaga. And I'm not sure when that game tipped off or even if it's over, but they played garbage yesterday, and they're going to be underachieving. And the roster construction is a mess too. But back to my point, I just liked talking crap about Indiana. Luke Goody decides to go to Indiana. But I'm guessing that there was a conversation had beforehand where Brad Underwood said, here's what I imagine your role will be. It's hard for me to guarantee you much of anything at this moment. Luke Goody had good moments in the NCAA tournament. He was big for Illinois in their run to an Elite Eight. And Brad Underwood says, yeah, I mean, I like Luke, but I want better. And I'm thinking, damn. I mean, when Luke left, I tried to give Underwood and the staff the benefit of the doubt and think, okay, yes, Luke is not the best player. He's not the best defender, but you know what? He actually was pretty big in March. You could say the same thing for Dane Danger, who's Dane Danger at Memphis. He's good. Not great, but good. All these guys are legit college basketball players, but Brad Underwood is thinking, are they going to help me win a title? I mean, that's what he has made reference to multiple times from the spring and now into the fall. Winning a national title. Luke Goody, much as I like him, is not a guy that would get a lot of tick on a national title team. He just wouldn't. Dane Danger on a national title team, he could find 8 to 10 minutes. But not the 20 that we needed from him in March to make the Elite Eight. And yeah, we still could have made the Final Four if it wasn't for frickin' UConn. And by the way, Dan Hurley, take some meds. Chill out. My God, he got 2 national titles, and he's going frickin' nuts out there. But to me, the absolute just stone-cold, ruthless nature with which he constructed this roster, because it is stone-cold in this way. Loyalty was not rewarded for guys that were already in the program. Now, for an Illini fan like myself, who so badly wants that national title, is it wrong of me to say I kind of like it? That you have a head coach that says, screw that. Get the donors on the phone. We need money. I'm going to go get some dudes, and we're going to lose a few, but that's okay. Even Coleman Hawkins, they did not even attempt to keep Coleman. One, they weren't going to pay him the $2 million or whatever he ultimately got from Kansas State. But two, sort of like a handshake agreement, very mutual sort of parting of ways, as much as it can be in this NIL era. Coleman is a guy that any team would probably take. And I know he's struggling this year offensively, but Kansas State's just not a very good team. And he's not. They're trying to make him almost like their top scorer. That's not what his role is, and we know that. And Brad Underwood says, Coleman, you're the third best player on last year's team. I love you. I'm not paying you $2 million. I'm going to just go use that money elsewhere. Did he say that directly, overtly? I don't know. But at least implicitly, that's what he said to Coleman, to Dane, to Luke Goody, then to Ty Rodgers at the start of the season. Loyalty is not part of this anymore. I would understand if that turns people off. I would. But this is the game as it stands here in 2024. Going into 2025, if you want to win national titles, I think there has to be a sense of ruthlessness with your roster construction. So I'm watching this game today and seeing all these new pieces and thinking, okay, they are not at their best yet. But there was no Kasparas on last year's team. Take away Terrence Shannon and Marcus Damask, who were so freaking good last year. And Terrence, none of these guys on this team will have an individual season like Terrence did last year, and I don't know if we'll ever see an individual season like that again. But the overall collection of talent, I think, is just better than last year. And when you find that out, it's not 1, 2, 3. Oh, our 1, 2, 3 guys are better. Because that is where the argument could be made with last year's Illinois team that no. Terrence Shannon Jr., Marcus Damask, Coleman Hawkins versus Kasparas, Tomislav Ivisic, and I guess we'll throw Riley in there. You would probably still take Terrence, Marcus, Coleman, right? I think you'd have to. But where that really becomes clear is when you go down to 4, and then 5, and then 6, and then 7. The 8th spot for Illinois, that's going to be sort of by committee, it feels like. But overall, the talent collectively is better than last year. If this were an NCAA basketball game on Xbox and they had overall team ratings, I feel like this team, if they were accurate ratings, would be just a smidge higher than last year. Now, that's no guarantee of anything when it comes to March success. It's not. But it just speaks to the fact that Brad Underwood is more than willing to go out there and say, I want to win a national title, and I will completely overhaul my roster in order to do so. And if that means every year I got to try it again and again and again, he will do that. And back to my original point about how comfortable he looks on that sideline. Just look at him. How many times did he yell today? I know that last year he didn't do a whole lot of that either. 2 years ago, there was plenty of that. And when he got a dimwit like Jaden Epps on your team, the more we find out about him, then I can understand why. He seems very, very comfortable in his own skin. The anti-Hurley, in a way. Dan Hurley should be comfortable in his skin. And yet it feels like his bones are about to jump out of his body. The guy's insane. I digress. Brad Underwood seems pretty cool, calm, and collected. Not just by his standards, but by coaching standards. Occasionally he gets fired up. Occasionally he'll yell one thing to a player from the sideline. It's a very different tune than what we saw in the first 4 or 5 years of Brad Underwood, though. And I think that's because the timing of this NIL portal and how college basketball works now just lends itself perfectly to his skill set. It's like he was made for this moment in this college basketball landscape. If he would have been around the 80s and 90s, I don't think Brad Underwood would have ran a clean program. And I don't mean that as a criticism. Lante and I often talked about on 93.5, given the choice between no title and a title, but you get the banner taken down because of sanctions, I'm taking the title with the banner getting taken down from the Raptors because, we gave one player a car and we gave another player a few $1,000. Because you know what? They should have been making that. Fab Five should have been making that money. Flying Illini, hopefully they got some money under the table. 0405, I hope to God that somehow they were financially compensated for all the jerseys that were flying off the shelves and all the popcorn being sold in Assembly Hall that year. The very least they deserved was a few $1,000. You want to take the banner down because of that? Have at it. In this climate, there's an honesty about it in a way. This is semi-pro, if not professional sports. Let's stop pretending otherwise. And they're still running the academic side of this, I think, probably on the up and up, because I would like to think that the NCAA has any sort of jurisdiction about anything. It would be academic integrity, though with the UNC case a few years ago, clearly not. So wishful thinking on my part. But I just like, and I think Brad Underwood in particular likes, the fact that, okay, cut the BS. What's my budget? Let's go get some dudes. And because Illinois fans are crazy, and I mean that as a compliment, because we're crazy and we have some crazy donors that are happy to put money into this program, and thank you for that, because tonight I got to watch guys like Kasparas and Will Riley and Tomislav Ivisic just rain all over these dudes, and Kylan Boswell rain all over a ranked Arkansas team in a neutral site. And are all 4 of those guys coming, if not for a healthy NIL budget? I don't know. But it doesn't hurt when you, A, have success on the court, and B, have some money that you can throw around to lure these guys in if they're, for whatever reason, on the fence. And it seems like that's kind of the place that Illinois basketball's in. And why? Brad Underwood. So, am I going to get critical of Brad at points this year? You bet. Of course. It's sports. I'm a fan. It's not going to be all hunky-dory. But right now, it kind of is. Now, when we play Northwestern next Friday, I'm going to be with a bunch of friends at this yearly cabin trip that we do. And we've already decided we're going to get rowdy. We're going to get vulgar. It would not be podcast material. We're just going to be just spouting vulgarities left and right, getting a good buzz on as Illinois hopefully beats Northwestern. That's the goal, right? And if they didn't, I would be pissed because they shouldn't lose to Northwestern. They just simply shouldn't. Even if Northwestern's a little bit better than we thought this year, I don't care. I don't care. We owe them for that crap that happened at Walsh Ryan last year, which was a maddening game. And there were maddening games on the way to an Elite Eight. But tell you what, while I know that's going to happen, even as a fan, there's a little bit less pressure in watching these games because you know that the overall health of your program is in good standing. It just is. And anybody that's a college basketball writer, media person, they know that. We got the Jeff Goodmans of the world tweeting this game out. We have Seth Davis making comments about Illinois. You got the national guys talking about Illinois because we are a national brand again. That speaks to the health of the program, and who's most responsible for that? Brad Underwood. So on Thanksgiving Day, Brad Underwood, I am thankful for you. I really am. And that's, not tongue-in-cheek. I'm very thankful for Brad Underwood and how he's made this program relevant again. All right, we got some chat window stuff. Okay, so from Jason, I think this is about Kylan. Oh, he says Boswell is probably the MVP. And again, I wouldn't disagree with that, Jason. He says, I think if he can score double-digit points and that defensive stopper will be very dangerous. Opens up the floor more for KJ and Big T. He did tonight. Steady ball handler. I like when when Kylan has the ball. And KJ too. But with KJ, I'm a little bit, oh, God, what's he going to do? And with Kylan, I'm like, yeah, he's got it under control. He's got like that Dimitri McCamey body, a little bit stout and strong, and it feels like no one's going to bully Kylan. And in some games, you're going to need that, I feel like. From Ryan, about Indiana, they lost bad at Gonzaga too. Good. I don't care what the inevitable win at Indiana is going to do for a Ken Pom. I say inevitable. Listen, that'll still be tough because at Indiana, they cannot score if it's not a layup or a dunk. They stink. He went out there and said, I want two big men, neither of whom can shoot a three. We're going to play them together. Why does Merez and Tomislav Ivisic work? Why does that work? Oh, right, because Tomislav can go hang out on the perimeter, and Merez can bang down low. And still, credit to Merez. He's not bad coming up, setting some screens in the perimeter. He looks comfortable doing that, but you can do that. You can't do that with the two bigs at Indiana. They're just two hulking throwback bigs. Doesn't work that way. Too bad, so sad. Indiana, have fun with that. Are they going to regret not going after Dusty May? Because Michigan looked really good against Xavier yesterday. Dusty May, right there, but they didn't want to pull the trigger on Mike Woodson, wanted to give it one more year. You could have argued that Mike Woodson did not have a track record bad enough to fire him. And I would probably agree with that. But this is just not a time and place in college basketball right now where you can drag your feet. You just can't. And if they miss out on Dusty May and he turns Michigan back into a top 20 program, which I think he could, I think they are probably like top 25-ish team as it stands right now. I don't want to overreact to that Xavier game. They're a hell of a lot better than Indiana already. And this is year 4 for Mike Woodson. What's he doing there? What is he doing? You know he's got the budget. All right, this is from Jailbreak. I like Brad. He's probably a jerk in practice. It depends. Jerk would be a somewhat pessimistic way to look at it. Frank, honest, that'd be an optimistic way to look at it. Probably something in between. I'm sure he does not mince words. All right, from Ryan. With Coleman, you can tell there's zero bad blood. He showed up today in full Illini gear. How about that? Cool little side story. Coleman Hawkins at the game today wearing his letter jacket from Illinois, even though he is at Kansas State right now. That is cool. From Your Right. Hey, You're Right. No, these kids get paid now. They're pros. There's no loyalty. Can't have it both ways. Can't get paid like a pro and still expect to be treated like a student amateur athlete. You're right. You're right. You're right. I've thought about this and the way that I go about criticizing players. And I'm not going to make it personal, but I'm also not going to be quite as walking on eggshells with my criticisms about their performance. They are getting paid, and some of them handsomely. The reason why Matthew Meyer was on my SHIT list. I need to clean up my language. I said it once in the last podcast, maybe twice. Sorry. The Alabama podcast, actually, but I was a little bit angry. Matthew Meyer deserved every bit of criticism. The dude got a paycheck, came in, acted a fool, total doofus. I hope he never steps back on this campus. Sayonara. See you, Matthew Meyer. Yeah, you helped us make a tournament. I guess you could argue that, sure. But overall, the toxicity that he brought, I could have taken or leaving it. Left it. Leaving it? Jesus. I'm an ELA teacher, and I can't even get grammar right. This is what Matthew Meyer does to me. Gets me all fired up. Don't like him. So I criticized him heavily, right? I didn't feel bad about it, and the rationalization that I made was he's making money. So I'm going to criticize him like the semi-pro that he is. So you're right. You're right. Jailbreak. It's a different culture, no doubt. I see kids wanting to be coached. Doesn't it feel that way, Jailbreak? For this team and all the new pieces, I am most impressed with the fact that they're playing hard on defense, for one. And two, I'm noticing the communication that they have at any break. Let's say the other team's going to shoot free throws or something. You see Illinois quickly huddle up, and often it's Kasparas that's the one talking, which is cool to see from a freshman point guard. You see Kylan kind of being a calming force. I really do think that his character is starting to, not just the on-the-court stuff, but really his character within huddles and things, seems just much more comfortable right now. That, to me, these are signs, albeit little signs, of a group of players that are willing to be coached. You don't see that crap with Indiana. And if it is, it's perfunctory. It's performative. Luke Goody finally took him getting so pissed off with the rest of them that he's chewing them out in a huddle as Mike Woodson's standing back like, huh? And really, to Woodson's credit, if I saw a player that fired up, I'd probably let him get it out too. It just could easily be construed as, wow, Luke Goody has more fire than the coach does. I don't have any questions about this particular team. Early 2 years ago, it was wins against UCLA and Texas that seemed to mask all the issues. And then by the time the Penn State game happened, I thought, well, that's the aberration. We've already beaten UCLA. We've beaten Texas. Clearly, we're a really good team. That was just a bad day. A weird day for sure. Well, little did I know that was really a harbinger of things to come. I don't see that being the same downfall of this team. If there is a downfall of this team, perhaps, man, what would it be? I think just any given night where your stars just don't look great. And if Kasparas is not great, I think other teams will hang. Though, most encouragingly today, I don't think Kasparas was great for 30 minutes. I thought he was a bit of a mess. Yeah, he got some stats. But I thought he was a mess for 30 minutes, and it didn't matter. You were still up by double digits the whole time. So maybe that's a big sign of encouragement right there. All right, from your right as well, I dedicate this one to Ed Cooley, good old Ed Cooley from Georgetown. And from Jailbreak, another one. Mixed emotions about that. I still think of it as amateur. Underwood has been good at adjusting. And I get that, Jailbreak, in terms of criticizing players. Again, not going to make it personal, but if there is just outright bad performance consistently, or just, boneheaded plays over and over again, like that would start to get under my skin, and I'm sure I'd say something, but I don't foresee any Matthew Meyer situations this year. Knock on wood. I just don't see it right now. All right, well, hey, we got a good little group here on Thanksgiving evening. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Wanted to come and talk about this win, which I think is a big win for this team, and don't want to go so far as to say formative. There's so many games coming up where I think there will be other kind of benchmark games along the way. And by the way, Northwestern's tough. I mean, they're hanging with Butler right now. They're 5-1. Butler's 4-1. This is it looks like something in Phoenix, some tournament out there, but you should still beat them next Friday. You should. You should beat Northwestern football on Saturday. You should beat Northwestern basketball on Friday, next Friday. And that should be the natural order of things. You're just better than them in both sports. So let's make sure that happens. As Northwestern takes the lead, the first lead since the first half. That's fine. Let them get any win as long as it isn't against us. But hey, guys, thank you for tuning in on this Thanksgiving evening. I hope you had a great holiday. Got to thank our sponsors, of course, Hamilton Walkers, Steak, Seafood, and Spirits in downtown Champaign, State Farm agent Brian Hansen, online at brianismyguy.com, Dogtown Heating, Air, and Plumbing, your home's best friend. Give them a call at 217-841-4728. And finally, OM Builders LLC, online at ombuildersllc.com. If you haven't already, the 200-level book is available Amazon if you do not live in Champaign-Urbana. If you do, Game Day Spirit, both locations in Champaign and Jane Addams Bookstore in downtown Champaign. I think that's all I got. Champagne Showers Podcast Network. Appreciate them. Appreciate you, the listener. Have a good rest of your holiday weekend. And thank you for those in YouTube that popped in this evening. Have a good rest of your night. Time to go watch the National Dog Show. Go to bed early and hibernate. I hope you had as good a holiday as I did. Take care, everybody. I am thankful for you for even bothering to listen to my blathering about Illini sports. I truly am grateful for all of that. It is the 200 level. All right, thanks, YouTube. Have a good rest of your holiday. Take care, everybody. And Saturday, if Illinois wins, probably do a post game. Same spot. Take care, everybody.